10 menu items GREGGS employees wish you'd stop ordering, not because they're picky, and not because they're trying to ruin your day, but because behind those glowing pastry cabinets is a story most customers never hear. A story about the items that look innocent, smell comforting, and yet hide problems, shortcuts, recalls, disappointments, or secrets no one talks about publicly. Before you order your next lunch from GREGGS, you need to understand something. Not every item in that warm display is as safe, fresh, or dependable as it looks. Some of them have pasts, some have reputations, some have made staff roll their eyes, shake their heads, or silently whisper, "Please, not that one again." GREGGS is more than a bakery in this country. It's a lifeline. It's the warm pastry you grab when you're late for work. It's the sausage roll that got you through college. It's the comfort food you reach for when the day has gone wrong and you need something that doesn't ask questions. There's emotion attached to this place, memories, a strange sense of safety. But what if that safety isn't the same across the entire menu? What if certain items, the ones you've ordered for years without thinking twice, come with stories GREGGS will never put on the packaging? Stories of inconsistency, of recipes that changed quietly, of fillings that vanished, of machines that malfunctioned, of items that caused more chaos behind the counter than you will ever know. And what if the item you've trusted the most is somewhere near the top of this list? This video isn't here to scare you. It's here to reveal what staff have seen, what customers have complained about, and what the brand has quietly fixed, adjusted, or pretended never happened. We're starting with the mild offenders, the small frustrations. But as we move closer to number one, things get far more surprising. So before you step into GREGGS again, before you point at the glass cabinet with that familiar sense of comfort, let's uncover the 10 menu items that deserve a second thought. Because once you hear what's coming, you'll never look at the GREGGS menu the same way again. Number 10, the omelette breakfast roll. At number 10, we're starting with something that feels almost innocent, the omelette breakfast roll. If this item had a personality, it would be the quiet kid in class who never causes trouble but somehow still manages to confuse the teacher. On the surface, it's simple. An omelette, a soft roll, maybe a dash of ketchup if you're feeling rebellious. What could possibly go wrong? Well, quite a lot actually. The omelette itself lives a difficult life. It's cooked early, held in a warming unit, reheated, moved, stacked, and sometimes waits longer than it should for someone to finally choose it. Eggs aren't built for this kind of emotional journey. They break down, they toughen, they transform from a fluffy protein cloud into something with the texture of a memory foam pillow that's given up on its dreams. One of the biggest complaints customers mention is the unpredictability. One day you'll get a genuinely lovely breakfast, warm, soft, comforting. The next day you'll bite into it and wonder if the omelette spent the night contemplating its existence in a fridge. Even employees quietly admit it. This is the one item they hope customers order very early in the morning before the omelette begins its slow transformation into yellow rubber. And it's not just texture. This roll has a temperature problem. Because of how it's stored, the outside can feel warm while the center stays suspiciously cool, giving you the unsettling sensation of biting into two different breakfasts at once. Employees see the face people make when that happens. The polite nod, the internal disappointment, the existential questioning. Still, the omelette roll isn't terrible, just misunderstood. A soft opening to our countdown. Which brings us neatly to number 9, a treat that starts sweet but can turn on you faster than you think. Number 9, the Yum Yum. At number 9, we have an item with one of the most charming names on the menu, the Yum Yum. A name so eager, so cheerful, so confident in its own deliciousness that you already feel slightly betrayed when it doesn't live up to the promise. And that's the issue. The Yum Yum has commitment problems. Fresh out of the delivery or freshly glazed, a Yum Yum is heavenly, soft, sticky, sweet, in a way that makes you momentarily forget every responsible decision you've ever made. But the magic fades fast, faster than any other pastry GREGGS sells. This is a product with a shelf life that can be measured in emotional minutes. Give it an hour, still decent. Give it 2 hours, you might start chewing harder. Give it 3, you're entering territory where your jaw is doing more work than the pastry. Employees know this. They've watched Yum Yums age like avocados. Perfect one moment, questionable the next. And because it's a high sugar fried dough, once it loses freshness, it doesn't decline gracefully. It becomes dense, dry, slightly oily, like it's absorbed every bad decision happening in the bakery that day. And then there's the nutritional side. Customers buy them casually, thinking, oh, it's just one small pastry, while holding a dessert that contains enough sugar to power a small marathon. Staff have seen people order 3 at once, as if they're stress eating their way through a Roman tragedy. If the Yum Yum could speak, it would whisper, "Are you sure? Because I'm not." But while the Yum Yum is inconsistent, It isn't malicious, it just ages aggressively. Unfortunately, the next item on our list doesn't just age badly, it frustrates customers and employees in ways we need to talk about. Number 8, the potato wedges. Number 8 on our list is the GREGGS potato wedges, the side item that looks promising, smells incredible, and yet has disappointed more customers than any other savory extra on the menu. If the yum yum ages like an avocado, the potato wedges age like a wet sock. Their downfall isn't flavor, it's physics. Wedges are supposed to be the reliable friend in the friendship group, crispy on the outside, soft on the inside, seasoned just enough to feel exciting without needing a sauce. But GREGGS wedges have one fatal flaw. They cannot survive time. They're best eaten within minutes, seconds, ideally after leaving the fryer. Unfortunately, GREGGS wedges rarely get that luxury. Because the shops prepare batches in advance, wedges often sit in their warming trays, slowly steaming themselves into submission. The result is a texture that swings wildly between pleasantly soft and soggy disappointment wearing a seasoning jacket. Even employees know this. They've watched wedges collapse into the tray like they're having an existential crisis. There's also the heat problem. Wedges are temperamental. Too hot and they sweat themselves into mush. Too cool and they become stiff and slightly grainy. The window between perfect and why does this taste like sadness is painfully short. By the time a customer finally gets their order, especially during busy periods, the wedges have usually given up. Customers often complain that wedges feel like they were once crispy in a past life, and that's because they were, briefly, before the laws of steam and starch teamed up against them. Still, wedges aren't villains. They're victims of their environment. Unfortunately, the next item on our list isn't a victim of physics. It's a victim of over-promising and under-delivering every single time. Number 7, the bacon roll. Sliding into number 7 is the GREGGS bacon roll, a breakfast classic that should be unbeatable. Bacon, bread. It's the oldest and safest combination known to humankind. Yet somehow, GREGGS has turned this simple national treasure into one of the most inconsistent items on the menu. The main problem? The bacon. It's pre-cooked, held, reheated, shuffled around, and sometimes forgotten for longer than any strip of meat should legally be. This means your bacon can range anywhere from crispy and perfect to slightly damp apology, and you never know which one you're going to get. GREGGS employees quietly dread the bacon roll during rush hour. When the store is slammed, the pressure builds, and that's when shortcuts happen. Bacon comes out undercooked, or overcooked, or stuck together in a way that makes you question everything you know about physics. Sometimes the fat is chewy, sometimes it's rubbery, sometimes the whole strip curls so aggressively it tries to escape the bread entirely. Then there's the bread roll. When fresh, it's lovely, soft, warm, comforting. But when it's not fresh, you might as well be chewing the heel of a shoe. And when the bacon inside is lukewarm, congratulations. You're eating a sandwich that tastes like the morning you overslept your alarm. The bacon roll isn't dangerous. It's not even bad when it wants to behave. It's just unreliable. It's the menu item equivalent of someone who's chronically late, but insists they're on their way. Some mornings, it shows up exactly as you hoped. Other mornings, it feels like a practical joke wrapped in a paper bag. And while the bacon roll can be forgiven for its mood swings, item number 6 brings a kind of frustration that both staff and customers have felt for years, and it's hiding behind a golden, flaky cover. Number 6, the cheese and onion bake. At number 6 sits a GREGGS classic that has started more arguments in break rooms than any other pastry, the cheese and onion bake. On the surface, it looks innocent, golden, flaky, warm, the kind of pastry that whispers, "Trust me." But anyone who has worked behind the GREGGS counter knows the truth. This bake has a mind of its own, and it is chaotic. The biggest issue? It leaks, and not gently, not like a dignified pastry with composure. No, the cheese and onion bake explodes. It bursts. It oozes molten filling, like it's trying to escape its own pastry shell. Employees have watched entire trays sacrificed because one rebellious bake erupted in the oven and coated everything in a glossy yellow avalanche. This filling behaves like lava with an attitude problem. It's hot enough to cause emotional damage, but once it cools, it becomes oddly thick and sticky, like someone melted a block of cheese during a midlife crisis. Customers expect a creamy, comforting filling. Instead, they sometimes get a pocket of wildly uneven texture, soothing on one side, suspiciously lumpy on the other. And here's the secret. The cheese and onion bake is one of the hardest pastries for staff to keep keep presentable. It collapses easily, the layers crack, the filling escapes, and by the time it reaches the customer, the bake often looks like it endured a difficult morning. Consistency is its downfall. Some days it's perfect, rich, warm, beautifully balanced. Other days, it's a structural failure wrapped in puff pastry. But if the cheese and onion bake is messy and emotional, the next item is something else entirely. A menu item with a long history, a fierce fan base, and a reputation that's become complicated. Number 5, the vegan sausage roll. At number 5, we arrive at the vegan sausage roll, the pastry that practically broke the internet when it launched. It had celebrities arguing, newspapers melting down, and customers lining up as if Greggs had reinvented oxygen. For a moment, it was the most talked about bakery item in the country, and yet years later, the cracks in its fame have begun to show. Trafficant sausage roll suffers from one overwhelming issue: temperature inconsistency. When fresh out of the oven, it's genuinely impressive, flaky, savory, shockingly close to the real thing. But once it sits for a little too long, the pastry becomes soft, slightly sweaty, and oddly fragile. It goes from innovative marvel to pocket of sadness at a speed even staff struggle to keep up with. The filling also doesn't always behave. Unlike meat, plant-based mixtures react differently to heat and moisture. When the roll is fresh, the texture is convincing. But when it cools, the filling becomes pasty, dense, and occasionally grainy, like it's trying to remember what flavor it was meant to be. Employees know exactly when the vegan sausage roll is at its best, and they also know when it's quietly sitting in the cabinet, hoping nobody chooses it. Customers often complain that it's either too soft, too dry, or too cold. 3 very different crimes committed by the same pastry. And then there's the pastry itself. Vegan puff pastry doesn't have the same richness or resilience as butter-based pastry. It flakes beautifully at first, but within 20 minutes, it begins to droop, wilt, and lose its structural integrity, like a tent collapsing in slow motion. Still, this item deserves respect for changing the game, but respect isn't enough to save it from criticism, or from the next item on our list, which has a controversial history of its own, including a moment Greggs would definitely like everyone to forget. Number 4, the chicken bake. Number 4 is a Greggs legend, but not always in a good way. The chicken bake is the menu item that seems permanently trapped between two worlds: the world where it should be delicious, and the world where customers open it and immediately ask, where's the filling? This bake is notorious for its inconsistency. When it's good, it's genuinely satisfying, warm, creamy, comforting, the culinary equivalent of a soft blanket. But when it's bad, it's a pastry pocket containing 3 lonely cubes of chicken drifting in a sea of beige sauce. Some customers have described it as a pastry with trust issues because you never quite know if you're going to get substance or disappointment. The problem isn't just quantity, it's distribution. The filling doesn't sit evenly. You'll take one bite and get pure pastry. The next bite a spoonful of sauce, the next bite a chicken chunk fighting for its life. Employees know exactly what's inside before they hand it over. They've seen bakes with so little filling that even gravity wouldn't hold it in place. And then there's the texture issue. The sauce inside the chicken bake can swing wildly from creamy to watery, depending on timing, temperature, and how long it sat waiting for someone, anyone, to choose it. If the filling overheats, it becomes thin and almost soupy. If it cools down, it thickens into a paste that feels like it's trying to glue your mouth shut. Customers constantly compare the chicken bake to how it used to taste. Greggs changed its recipe years back, and longtime fans still talk about the original like they're remembering a lost love. Employees know this too. They hear the nostalgia every day. But if the chicken bake frustrates with inconsistency, the next item on our list caused something much bigger. A nationwide moment Greggs would absolutely love to erase from history. Number 3, the steak bake. Coming in at number 3 is one of the most iconic Greggs items ever made. The steak bake, a national favorite, a legend, a menu item so beloved that people have written actual poems about it. And yet, this same bake ended up at the center of one of Greggs' biggest modern embarrassments. Yes, we're talking about the recall. In early 2025, a specific batch of Greggs 2-pack steak bakes sold in stores was urgently recalled due to a labeling error. The product contained undeclared milk, creating a serious allergy risk. Stores pulled them, news outlets covered it, customers panicked. For a company as widely trusted as Greggs, this was a big moment, the kind that makes employees cringe whenever someone brings it up. And beyond the recall, the steak bake has long had its own reputation. Like the chicken bake, the filling can be inconsistent. Sometimes it's rich and savory, with the perfect amount of gravy. Other times it comes out watery, sparse, or strangely congealed, like someone trapped disappointment inside a pastry case. Customers often post photos showing one half stuffed with meat and the other half containing nothing but gravy-soaked air. Employees will tell you the steak bake is temperamental. It dries out fast. It collapses easily. The top layer of pastry flakes beautifully, but the bottom can get soggy if it sits even slightly too long. And if the filling overheats, it becomes so hot that biting into it feels like a regrettable life decision. But the real issue, the reason it ranks so high, is the mismatch between expectation and reality. People worship the steak bake. They expect glory. They expect consistency. They expect the experience they remember from years ago. And when it fails, the disappointment hits harder than with any other GREGGS item. Still, as we climb toward number 1, just know this: the steak bake may have had a public scandal, but the next items go beyond inconsistent, beyond recalled, beyond controversial. They enter the realm of GREGGS employees genuinely hope you choose anything else. Number 2, the festive bake. Number 2 is an item that should be magical. It should be comforting. It should be the pastry equivalent of a warm hug during a miserable December afternoon. The festive bake is, in theory, GREGGS at its best, a limited edition icon that returns every winter like a celebrity doing a seasonal cameo. People queue for it. People plan their lunch breaks around it. Some customers practically salute it when it appears in the window, but behind all that love hides chaos. The festive bake is one of the most inconsistent items GREGGS produces, and it's not the baker's fault. It's the nature of the beast. The ingredients are complicated, the filling is delicate, and because it's seasonal, demand skyrockets faster than staff can keep up, turning the entire product into high-pressure gamble. Employees say the festive bake is an emotional roller coaster for staff and customers. When it's fresh, it's genuinely brilliant, warm, creamy, savory, slightly sweet, nostalgic, comforting. But when it's not fresh, my God, it becomes a confusing mixture of textures. The sauce thickens into something gluey. The pastry softens from steam. The cranberries turn into sweet little landmines you never asked for. And the stuffing behaves like it's auditioning for a role in a medieval rationing documentary. Because the festive bake is so loved, its failures feel amplified. Customers come in with romantic expectations, like they're about to eat an emotional Christmas soundtrack. And when the bake doesn't deliver, people take it personally. There are passionate rants online about this year's recipe being different, the filling shrinking, the pastry collapsing, the flavor being off, and the magic being lost. Add to that the sheer stress of December, cold weather, long queues, impatient shoppers, and the festive bake becomes the pastry most likely to disappoint during the moments when people need comfort the most. Which brings us to number 1, the GREGGS item that employees quietly dread the most. The one with the biggest reputation for disappointment, inconsistency, and frankly, emotional damage. Number 1, the chicken goujons. Taking the number 1 spot, the GREGGS item employees hope you walk right past, is none other than the chicken goujons. Not because they're dangerous, not because they're scandalous, but because they are, without question, the least consistent, least reliable, and least beloved item behind the counter. Chicken goujons should be the safest food on earth. Every supermarket sells them. Every fast food chain serves them. They're simple. They're universal. They're impossible to get wrong, unless you're GREGGS, apparently. The biggest issue? Texture. GREGGS goujons have an almost supernatural ability to turn from crispy to cardboard within minutes. If they've been sitting even slightly too long, the coating becomes dry and brittle, while the chicken inside turns stringy, like it's already emotionally checked out. Staff members know exactly how quickly they deteriorate, which is why they give that subtle, defeated exhale whenever a customer orders them near the end of a busy shift. Then there's the flavor problem. When fresh, they're decent, lightly seasoned, mild, easygoing. But when they're not fresh, they taste like they were seasoned by someone who gave up halfway through. Sometimes they're overly salty, other times almost flavorless. There is no middle ground. Every goujon is on its own spiritual journey, and customers notice. The reviews online are brutal, describing goujons as dry, chewy, pointless, sad, and nothing like the photo. Even worse are the complaints about portion size. 3 small pieces that look like they're huddling together for emotional support. The goujons aren't bad because they're risky. They're bad because they're disappointing. They fail at being the one thing they're supposed to be: dependable. Employees know this. Customers know this. Somewhere deep down, even the goujons probably know this. And that is why, of all the GREGGS menu items, The chicken goujons take the crown as the #1 item staff quietly pray you don't order. So those are the 10 Greggs items employees quietly hope you think twice about. Not because Greggs is bad, far from it. Greggs is woven into the fabric of this country. It's the warm pastry that saves rainy mornings, the quick lunch that keeps you going, the comfort you grab when life is lifing a little too hard. But loving something also means seeing it clearly. And even the most beloved bakery has a few menu items hiding in the shadows. So the next time you step into Greggs, half awake, starving, stressed, or just craving a bit of pastry-shaped comfort, you'll see that warm cabinet a little differently. Not with fear, but with knowledge. Because now you know which items shine and which ones quietly hope you walk past them. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the menu items Greggs probably doesn't want you thinking too hard about, then make sure you hit subscribe. This channel exposes the stories, secrets, and surprising truths behind the UK's most iconic restaurants, bakeries, and takeaways. The things most people never hear, but definitely should. Stick around, stay curious, and get ready for the next episode, because the next place you eat might have a story you won't believe.